Hey folks, and welcome back to another video. I'm Brendan from Bluelight, and today I'm going to talk to you about 5 common mistakes that people seem to be consistently making in their interview answers while preparing for either the online assessment centre for recruits, the final or in-force interview for recruits, and even for those people who are already in service. Many of them may not have had an interview since they actually joined, so it could be like 15, 20 years since they were last interviewed. And so that these issues consistently crop up, I'm going to talk to you about these 5 things today, and hopefully you'll be able to avoid them in the future. Now, what spurred me to do this is only yesterday I was doing some coaching, some one-to-one coaching for someone who's a potential recruit, preparing for the online assessment centre. And what we did was we practiced the likely questions that they're going to get asked, and he had 5 minutes to provide an answer, whether it's for the online assessment centre, which is 5 minutes actually, or your in-force interview, or specialist interviews, or promotion boards, whatever it might be. I always think about 5 minutes is about right anyway. 4 to 5 minutes, it's about right. If you think about how long you've got for the interview, you don't want to be giving an answer that's 1 or 2 minutes long. You might be thinking, oh, I don't want to bore them. No, they are there to be talked to. That's the aim of the interview, remember. You are there to talk to them about all your skills, your values, behaviours, all your attributes, why you're going to be the solution to their problem, which is either the vacancy or a new role or whatever it might be. You've got to convince them that you're the right person for the job. And if you make these mistakes, you're not going to do that. So pin your ears back, folks. These are 5 common mistakes and what you need to do to ensure that you avoid making them. Number 1, I put up there, chapters. You might be thinking, chapters? What, am I telling a story or something? Yes, you are. You're telling a story. You're telling a story about something that's happened. And especially for those people who are already in the police, we love to tell stories. I include myself in that. I served for just under 3 decades, and there's no better banter than getting around the night kitchen table at 4 in the morning around your half-eaten kebab after a night of glory, blood, guts and vomit, and people you've arrested and people who you've helped to serve to take them out of danger, whatever it might be. And there's always a bit of a laugh and a joke, and there's always a story to be told. Always. Bobbies are famous for it. But the thing is, the way you tell your stories, and this goes for recruits as well, is you tell them as if you're talking to someone who's just interested in what you do or what you did. But it's not providing that structured approach that the interviewer is looking for. So in a separate video, I talk about using the SALCU method. I don't like STAR. You can use it if you want, or you can use all the other. SOAR is another one I've seen, or what was it? I can't remember the other one I've heard. There's all sorts of different ways of structuring your interview answer. Choose whichever one works for you. I'm not going to get hung up on it, but SALCU works really well. It's worked for thousands of people so far. Different videos on SALCU. So make sure that you structure your approach in such a way that it enables the assessor to think about the situation you're in, the options you chose, the actions you took, why did you take those actions, barriers, challenges, result, learning, all the good stuff. Next one, there is no we. You're going into a team orientated organization, or if you're already in the police, you're applying for a role which is still team orientated. Out of the 21, 22, 23, anyway, there's over 20 roles I've had in 3 different forces and 1 home office department. There was only 1 occasion where I was in a team of 1, which was awesome, by the way. It was my last year of service, a team of 1, doing something very, very specialist function within the police service. So we tend to talk about we. So what we did then, and then what we did, and then what we did. Well, I don't want to hear about what we did. I want to hear about what you did. So we need to flip that round to always talk about I. And I know someone's going to say, yeah, but I'm part of a team. Yeah, great. Talk about your role in that team. So what did you do as part of that team? What functions did you take part in? What role did you play? I. Because when I hear we, actually, as an interviewer, I've stopped people before and said, I'm going to have to stop you because you're using we all the time. And I don't know whether it's you that did what you're saying was done or your colleague. So can you tell me about what you did, please? So you've got to get into that habit, folks. Knock yourself out of the way. Number 3, slow down. Slow down. Remember, you know the story intimately because you were there. You were involved. You know, it's part of your history. They don't. They don't. So they've got to get their head round everything that was going on. So the individual who was talking to me yesterday was actually a manager at a nightclub and was talking about serving people beyond the legal limit. And I was thinking, legal limit? And he was rattling away really quickly. And I was getting hung up on one part thinking, there's no legal limit on the number of drinks you can serve someone. I don't get it. But I didn't stop him. But he was going so fast and he didn't explain that bit that it threw me a bit. It threw me. So one of the things I'd advocate that you do is just slow down. You may be thinking, I've only got 5 minutes though, so I need to pack loads of stuff in. Yeah, but you'll confuse the interviewer. Make sure things are nice and simple, and they're going to be writing things down as well. They'll be making notes. If you go too fast, they may even stop you. And if you're stopped halfway through your interview answer, that could really throw you. So although they're used to interviewing, although they're used to making bullet points, don't go so fast that you're just going to confuse the living daylights out of them. Incidentally, the legal limit thing, I checked it out later. It was, as opposed to serving someone 2 measures of gin, they were doubling it up, serving people 4. I think it's called theft, actually. Anyway, slow down. Number 4, where is the answer to the question? So this happens all the time. I'll ask the question, so please can you tell me about a time when you've had to make a difficult decision, where you've had to account for that decision to others? And I've got this great story that's just amazing in front of me. Amazing story in front of me. But I can't work out where the difficult decision was. And I can't work out where the bit was where you've had to account for that decision to others. Now that's from the value of transparency. It's a very, very common question. I think just about every interview board or panel I've had, I've been asked a question which is a variant on difficult decision. I was asked that question after 3 days and 2 nights in the Dovey Outward Bound Centre, which was part of joining Cheshire back in 1985, coming off the mountains, running the last mile as fast as you could. I've got Inspector Jeff Churcham next to me saying, so Mr. O'Brien, tell me about a time when you made a difficult decision. He didn't speak with that accent, but you know, so it's always been there. And I couldn't work out what the decision was. And so at the end of the answer, he said, so how did I do? So I've just got one question for you. So can you tell me about a time when you've had to make a difficult decision, where you've had to account for that decision to others? And he said, well, I just have. I said, well, I don't know where the decision was. Where was the decision? And at that point, he reflected and thought, yeah, I don't know. It must have involved some difficult decisions. Yeah, because it's an awesome example of you doing something awesome, but I can't work out where the decision was. So it's got to be really crystal clear where the difficult decision is and where you had to account for it to others. So where's the answer to the question? Make sure you answer that question and don't provide an answer to another question. And that happens often. You've got all these pre-prepared ideas in your head about what you're going to say, and you give an amazing, awesome answer to something else. So you're not going to score very well because you didn't listen very carefully. You didn't answer the question. The last thing you want to do is be stopped 1 or 2 minutes into your performance for the interviewer to say, I'm going to stop you there because I'm not sensing that you're actually answering the question. Or you don't want to get to the end and then for them to just rather flippantly do what I've did, which is, so can you actually tell me about a time when you made a difficult decision where you've had to account for that decision to others? So make sure you answer the question, folks. I know it seems obvious, but so many of you just go off on some big tangent and I'm thinking, that it's great, but it's not the answer to the question. And the last one, avoid the tea and medals jobs. Now, what I mean by this, I mean, I'll give you these as examples. I've got permission from this individual to talk to you about these. He's a nightclub manager, and he gave some examples about taking ownership, which was, I'm just reading it now, some individual who used counterfeit money, they detained him, he assaulted one of the door staff, but they found, in his jacket, there were some drugs. The legality of the search I'm not sure about, but there was drugs, they found more counterfeit money, they found a weapon, Fantastic. I mean, awesome job. And this individual at the very end of it said, oh, I'm going to go down now because I'm on, I'm subject to recall. And it was just an awesome job. Individual who, the bad guy is going to jail. Great job. But it didn't really provide evidence of the behaviours that we're looking for in the actual answer, which is about, being collaborative with others. Because he was directing people to do a lot of things. It wasn't really collaborating at all. He was just telling people to do things. It didn't really fit the behaviours within that particular competency. Another example, public service. He did give me an example about, where is it here? This woman under the influence of drugs who was sick and ill. Also dealing with a woman who had mental health issues, who was in a nightclub, had to deal with first aid and get in touch with the paramedics, bring them out, all sorts of great stuff. Could have saved her life that night. Who knows? But it just didn't give the evidence of the behaviours that are being sought in the value of public service. So try and avoid the jobs where you're going to get tea and medals, the Gucci jobs, as I call them. I suffered from this on my promotion board to inspector. Well, I didn't suffer because I got promoted, but I should have known better. But I gave an example about a firearms incident that I brought to a conclusion as a temporary inspector. 4 on board a particular vehicle, big hard stop with the firearms officers, ARVs, awesome stuff, blue lights, sirens, just brilliant. 4 individuals arrested, firearms seized from the vehicle, stolen property, just everything. It was job handed to us on a silver platter. It was great. Another example I gave was supporting an acting sergeant who was having difficulties at the hospital to do with a custody issue, and the social worker was there and the head nurse from the ward was there, and he struggled to find a negotiated outcome. 1 hour later, I managed to find a negotiated outcome where everyone in the public services, in the public sector, was happy, and Dad wasn't, because he was given his marching orders. Out of the 2, you'd be thinking, the Gucci job where the chief superintendent came in to be part of the debrief, he was over the moon, and there's like tea, talk about medals, there's like tea and biscuits into it, but it was a proper job. That one scored the lowest. The one at the hospital that no one batted an eyelid about, chief inspector didn't even know about it, and nobody can either. You'd be like, why are you telling me this? That's the one that scored the highest, because it involved people. So I went to this individual yesterday and said, tell me something outside of you being a nightclub manager. What is it you've done? He said, well, I've had a few part-time jobs. All right, tell me about them. And I was thinking, not going to work. And he went, did Duke of Edinburgh. My eyes lit up. You did Duke of Edinburgh. Awesome. So what sort of things did you do in Duke of Edinburgh? And we came up with some amazing examples where he's worked with other people to come up with solutions to problems for public service, for we take ownership, and he's moved away from the tea and medals jobs. So be really cognizant of what's going on in the values and behaviours and the description of the behaviours that are expected from you in that particular value or that particular competency. I hope that's making sense. If I go to, just to give you an example here, if I go to, sorry, I just got something in my eye there. In case I knew you were thinking, is he blinking there? Yeah, it was. If we look at, where is it? Public service. As I mentioned that, didn't I? If we look at public service, first aid, tea and medals, saving someone's life. And I've seen this from serving officers who've talked about, savings, and they've saved someone from jumping off a bridge, that kind of incident, which is just awesome. It's amazing policing. But how did you go about understanding the needs of others to deliver the service? And I put here, well, I'll give you that. You can screenshot it. You can just stop, pause. There you go. Have a look at that. There you go. My free gift to you. Where am I? So you might have been asked a question. Please can you tell me about a time you've delivered a service by tailoring your communication style to meet needs of another? That's one for within the service. That's a popular one. Or just tell me about a time when you've had to put another person's needs before your own, or you've delivered the best possible service. Those are sort of questions you're going to get asked. But the behaviours talk about how you went about understanding the needs of others to deliver the service. And I put here, think about the open questions that you would have used, a range of cathartic and catalytic questions, and why you used those questions. How did you go about ensuring that you listened to the concerns of others? What consideration did you give to how others would want to be treated? And how did you find this out? How did you go about including others in the delivery of this service? And how did you ensure that what you did was in the interests of the organisation that you're a part of? So those are sort of behaviours that they're looking for in that value of public service. It's not word for word. I've translated it into something that's a little bit more meaningful than the sort of gobbledygook, competency speak in the CVF. So there you go, folks. There you go. Hope you find that useful. Top 5 mistakes that people make and how to avoid them. Let me know what you think in the comments below, whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, wherever it might be. Comments below, let me know. And if you're not in the Facebook group for potential recruits, there's a link below. If you're not in the Facebook group for serving officers and you are a serving regular police officer, not PCSO, not special, then there's a link below to join that group as well. So I hope this was of value to you. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye for now.